Welcome to Clarifying Catholicism's Science of Catholic Teaching. In this series, we examine the Church's teachings on marriage and sexuality from a scientific perspective. Most of the studies cited in this series were compiled in Father Robert Spitzer's The Moral Wisdom of the Catholic Church, a defense of her controversial moral teachings, and they can be found in the description. Without further ado, on to the show. Throughout this series, we've been referencing Father Robert Spitzer's 4 levels of happiness as a framework to evaluate an array of sexual ethical problems. These 4 levels are materialistic pleasure, ego-comparative, contributive empathetic, and transcendent faith-based. So far, we've touched on how premarital sex risks entrapping people in the lower, more self-centered levels. This is because without commitment and self-sacrifice that comes with marriage, it becomes easy for sex to devolve into a pleasure fest. We've also talked about how same-sex intercourse lacks the procreative aspect to bring about the higher levels of happiness that come with procreation. This is because sex, in its most fulfilling extent, is meant to be a self-sacrificial creative activity. Even the secular sciences show that many same-sex couples suffer from diseases and mental health disorders, even in countries where their lifestyle is arguably more accepted and embraced than Christianity is. And it is for this reason that the Catholic Church cannot recognize same-sex marriages, nor can it recognize marriages between heterosexual couples who are incapable of having sex. This episode, we will talk about perhaps the greatest offense against these levels of happiness: pornography. Obviously, pornography traps us in the very first levels of happiness, especially the first one, materialistic pleasure, since we are literally just using sex for immediate gratification. Furthermore, it leads to viewing the opposite sex as a tool for one's own pleasure. Gary Giles agrees, observing how pornography disrupts child development, shifting children's focus from pursuing loyal, supported, committed friendships to premature sexualization. I mentioned in episode 1 about how marketers like Hugh Hefner, founder of Playboy magazine, openly bragged about how they were able to easily market sex. This is because sex is so addictive, especially when we're considering its grip on the lower levels of happiness. The purpose of modesty and keeping sex private rather than flaunting it everywhere is to ensure that we focus on sex's role in the higher, more fulfilling levels of happiness which hinge on procreation. Today, it is estimated that roughly 98% of men and 73% of women have viewed pornography. In past episodes, we talked about how there are strong associations between pornography and extramarital sex, as well as premarital sex. 40% of people addicted to pornography lose their spouses. 58% of addicts suffer considerable financial losses, and 1/3 of them lose their jobs. In 2016, the American Sociological Association showed that pornography usage likely doubles the rate of divorce for those who begin viewing it during marriage. Husbands report loving spouses less after long periods of pornography viewing, and wives feel unattractive or sexually inadequate once they realize that their husbands view porn. How pervasive is pornography today? In 2013, it was estimated that 90% of kids between 8 to 16 had viewed pornography on the internet. Michael Flood reports that pornography leads to the acceptance of premarital, extramarital, and recreational sex. He also reports that viewing pornography negatively impacts self-image and self-esteem, whilst fueling shame, guilt, anxiety, and addiction. Pornography's link to sexual violence has been widely documented, and as with most issues we've investigated so far, the greatest victims of this perversion are women. Today's media makes pornography one of the most difficult addictions to break. Even scrolling through social media surrounds us, viewers, in temptation. There is nothing liberating about being trapped by our base sexual desires. If anything, it is containing sex to marriage that actually liberates us, as it helps us appreciate the more fulfilling aspects of sex and helps us love our partners more. A great resource to learn about pornography's harmful effects is called Fight the New Drug. I highly recommend that people who want to learn more about pornography's harmful effects on society check that out. Next episode, we'll delve into a rather recent issue that has rocked the world of sexual ethics: gender identity. Until then, have a great day. God bless you.